Well, guys, Edward's late again. I think it's finally happened. What a surprise.
The old man probably fell in a coma.
About time.
Either that or he forgot us.
I wouldn't doubt that either. Well, when he does come and pick us up, we should give him a little wake-up call for being late.
Oh, here he comes now.
I don't think that was Edward. Yeah, that wasn't Edward, you idiot.
Oh. Is that Thomas?
Come on, let's move it!
What was that for? What happened to Edward?
Oh, I believe you're mistaken. I'm your engine for today.
Oh, what? No!
Oh, come on! You don't want me to be your engine?
No, you suck!
We need a proper engine to pull us. We want Edward! Yeah!
Hey!
Ow! Ow!
Now that's enough! Keep up the slander and I'll bump you again! Yeah, I didn't think so. Now let's just enjoy a nice little stroll along the line.
Ow! Ow! Why? Pulling too hard!
Well, come on! Don't fuss with me!
Oh my God, it hurts! I'm pulling too hard!
Woo-hoo! Hurry!
Oh, too fast! Going too fast!
What do you mean too fast? I thought you liked going fast!
Not with you! You pull us too hard!
Oh, whatever! I'm already late! Better get used to it because I'm not slowing down anytime soon!
Now, hold on! You heard him, boys. He wants to go fast. Let's let him.
There we go. Now that's better. All right now, up we go.
Hold back! Hold back! Hold back!
Oh! Oh, what the hell? Come on! God! Why?
Go faster, Tommy! Yeah, go faster, Tommy! As fast as you can!
I'll go faster, all right. In your faces! Your plan failed! I've reached the top!
Push him now! Aye!
Oh! Hey! Whoa! Hey, what was going on?
You want to go fast! Your wish is granted!
No! Go back to holding back!
No, take back!
Oh my God! Stop pushing! Oh my God! It's too fast! Too fast!
Faster! Look out for the train!
No! Stop pushing! Right! Are you serious?
Dear, I shall have to stay in the shed for always, and no one will see my red coat again. All because I went so fast I made a hole in one of my coaches that had to be mended with, of all things, a passenger's bootlace.
Oh, I see that you're sorry, James. Well, I hope now that you'll be a better engine. You've given me a lot of trouble. People are laughing at my railway, and I don't like that at all.
I'm very sorry, sir. I will try hard to behave.
Well, that's a good engine. Well done. Now, I want you to pull some trucks for me, so run along and find them.
Thank you, sir.
Here's your freight train, James. Have you got some bootlaces ready?
What cheek!
We want a proper engine, not a red monster.
Come along, come along.
We won't, we won't.
Come along, come along. Oh! Come on, come on.
Give up, you can't hold us, you can't, you can't.
I can and I will, I can and I will. Come along, come along.
Look out for trouble, James. We'll go fast and get them up before they know it. Don't let them stop you.
I'm doing it, I'm doing it. Will the top never come? I've done it, I've done it. Hooray! It's easy now.
But my buffers!
Those trucks have done it again, James. We've left our tail behind.
That's why it was easy. What silly things trucks are. There might have been an accident.
Shall I help you, James?
No, thank you. I'll pull them myself.
Good. Don't let them beat you. You're doing well.
Don't talk, come on. I can do it, I can do it. Come on, don't be silly, don't be silly. I've done it, I've done it.
Well done!
Oh dear, what will he say?
I was in Edward's train and saw everything. You've made the most troublesome trucks on the line behave. After that, you deserve to keep your red coat.
Thank you, sir.
Harbour Days. The harbour on Edward's branch line was bustling with activity. Ships arrived night and day to load and unload cargo. This meant more and more trucks were needed, and the sidings were soon crowded. Poor Edward found it difficult to stay organized. Any spare time he had was spent trying to tidy the trucks. Unfortunately, his priority was getting his own trains ready, so little progress was made. Bill and Ben tried to help when they brought their loads of clay. However, they often ended up bickering about what truck should go where, which only made things worse. "You can't keep going on like this," remarked Boko, as a weary Edward huffed into the junction. "I think it's time we spoke to the fat controller about getting help." "The other engines are much too busy with their own work," Edward replied. "I'll manage. Somehow." Boko was unconvinced, but said no more. Later, Boko brought passengers to Thomas's junction. He was still thinking about Edward when his thoughts were interrupted by a cheerful "You look worried, Boko," observed Toby. "What's wrong?" Boko quickly explained about Edward and the harbour. "I know the feeling," sympathized Toby. "Back in my harbour days, you barely got a chance to rest your wheels. I miss it sometimes. though it's far from light work." "So it seems," muttered Boko. "I wouldn't worry," smiled Toby. "Edward has one thing every harbor engine needs: experience. I'm sure those trucks will be sorted by the time you next see him." But they weren't. Edward was busy elsewhere and hadn't been back to the harbor since the morning. Boko took his goods down the line, but when he arrived at the harbor, he was shocked. Trucks were everywhere. They giggled and chattered noisily. Boko frowned and moved forward to find Bill and Ben, arguing furiously. "You let a truck tell you where to put it? You know they're untrustworthy," Bill squawked. "Seemed more trustworthy than your instinct. You blocked an entire siding," retorted Ben. "Enough, both of you!" The twins jumped, not having noticed Boko arrive. "What on earth is going on here?" he demanded. "We just wanted to help Edward," cried Bill. "By sitting around bickering?" growled Boko. "It's not our fault," Ben harumphed. "We've never dealt with this many trucks at the clay pits. Perhaps if Edward had passed on some of that experience of his, we—" "Experience!" cried Boko. "That's it!" The twins stared at each other, then smiled. Whatever Boko's idea was, it was good enough for them. That evening, Edward was bringing his last passenger train to the harbor. He was glad the day's work was done and was eager to organize the yard. As he pulled into the harbor, he was quite surprised. The trucks were all tidily arranged. Sidings were clear, ships were hooting their horns in delight, and the workmen were in much better spirits. "How?" he began, when a familiar sight came into view. "Evening, Edward," smiled Toby. "I don't suppose you mind a little help from an old harbor engine, do you?" "Not at all," beamed Edward. "But how?" "Boko spoke with the fat controller," explained Toby. "The others are handling my branch line trains, while I look after your harbor for a few days." "I must say, it's a relief to see you. I've been run ragged trying to keep everything in order." "You leave this lot to me," Toby said, eyeing the trucks. "I'll see to it that your harbor is well looked after." Toby was as good as his word. Edward and Boko were able to focus on their regular duties. Toby had their trains ready in good time and kept all the ships on schedule leaving the harbor. He even found time to teach Bill and Ben a few tricks. At last, the harbor grew quieter, and the workload was more manageable. All the engines came to see Toby off. "The number 7 suits you," grinned Boko. "We're certainly lucky to have had your help." "It's been my pleasure," Toby smiled. "It put me in mind of the old days. Although," he chuckled, "it reminded me I'm not as young as I once was. I'm looking forward to a quiet run with Henrietta." At that moment, the signal dropped, and Toby's path was clear. "Goodbye, Toby," cheered Edward. "You're welcome on our branch line anytime." To a chorus of whistles and horns, Toby set off for home.
It's ridiculous! Thomas's frustration echoed around the station, but did nothing to arouse interest in his case. Percy snored a touch louder in his siding, and Annie and Clarabelle sighed, knowing what was coming next. If people wanted to see my branch line, why not let me show them? I know the line and our timetable better than anyone. These enthusiast specials are nonsense. Imagine making me wait at the cattle dock. As we've told you countless times, Annie sighed, the Fat Controller promised we wouldn't be late, and we're not. I do agree about the cattle dock, shivered Clarabelle, who didn't much care for cows. But never mind enthusiasts. We have our own passengers to look after. Well, of course I'll be looking after them, Thomas huffed. I have a duty to my branch line. But does the engine pulling these trains respect that? A familiar whistle echoed in the distance, and Thomas smirked knowingly. I suppose that answers my question. With more pomp than the circumstances called for, James rolled proudly into the station, whistling once more. Salutations, little engines! Passengers spilled from the coaches, cameras clicking and flashing all the while. Percy, who'd been jolted awake, merely grunted and went back to sleep. So, Thomas grinned, the Fat Controller lets any engine pull specials these days, does he? Well, he could have chosen any engine, but he chose me, James prinned. You certainly wouldn't want Gordon or Henry bumbling up your line, would you? Absolutely not, Thomas smiled, fully aware neither engine physically could, a fact James seemed to have forgotten. All the same, he went on, it is my line. I should be the one pulling that train. At this, James burst into laughter. Thomas was incensed. What's so funny? You, James replied, regaining composure, seem to enjoy leaving things behind. Your crew, your guard, even your whole train. I ensure they travel the whole line and give them a smooth, safe ride. You? Safe? Thomas chuckled. What do you say, Percy? Shall we take stock? Oh, I already took the goods this morning, Percy yawned grumpily. Leave me alone. Not rolling stock, Thomas snorted. I meant taking stock of James's safety record. Let's see. There's the tar wagons. Only happened because Toby distracted me, James quipped. Slipping down Gordon's Hill? Well, I can't control the weather, can I? Your truck's breaking away on Gordon's Hill? Faulty coupling. Your truck's pushing you down Gordon's Hill? Behavior issues. Your brake block's catching fire? You're pushing it. The bootlaces? And now you've crossed the line, James exploded. Well, if you can't take the heat, drop your fire, Thomas retorted. Says the engine who fusses when he doesn't get every special the Fat Controller schedules. No wonder he doesn't trust you with them. He clearly trusts me enough to give me my own branch line, unlike some engines I could mention. I'm the only reason you have a branch line to begin with, James sneered. Without me, you couldn't have toddled off to play the little hero. You'd have remained a mere shunter. Perhaps I should have left you in that field, Thomas spat. With a face like that, you'd be better off as a scarecrow. It took their drivers, firemen, the station master, and several porters to break up the argument. With much whooshing and snorting, the quarreling engines went about their work, brooding all the while. Bewildered enthusiasts photographed the whole ordeal. Poor Percy found himself an unwilling sounding board. Whenever he met them, Thomas and James would complain bitterly about each other. Never thought I'd prefer the company of trucks, the little green engine muttered, scurrying off before another tirade was launched at him. Some days later, Thomas was still in a foul mood. He returned to the station and pushed Annie and Clarabelle toward the cattle dock. The nerve of that James, he vented to Percy, sat in his siding once more. He'd be stuck on the slow goods if it weren't for me and my branch line. I like the sound of a slow goods, Percy smirked, especially if it gets me away from your grumbling. Thomas's grumbling was about to keep Percy right where he was. A special livestock delivery had been scheduled for Percy's next train. The van sat at the cattle dock, the farmer about to herd the cows aboard. Unfortunately, the station master had forgotten this, and Thomas simply didn't care to look. Clarabelle was preparing to doze until James had gone, when something appeared in her path, and it was getting closer. "Stop! Stop!" she shrieked. It was no use. Thomas bumped the van, startling himself and letting off steam. Spooked, the cows gave distressed moos and took off in all directions. "My cows!" Percy shrieked from his siding. Thomas merely stuttered, but even this was drowned out by the stampeding cattle. Clarabelle, eyes shut tight, could only shiver in fright. Annie sighed, wondering how she'd landed herself in the middle of this kerfuffle. Above the clatter of the cows came the echo of a distant whistle. Thomas and Percy went pale. Before they could give the warning, James appeared, hissing and clanking. He hadn't noticed the cows, but he had noticed Thomas. "Listen here, you little blue pest! Suddenly, James's wheels slipped fiercely, and with a bang, a great whoosh of steam shrouded everything. Engines and railwaymen alike coughed and winced. At last, the smoke dispersed, they opened their eyes, and there was no sign of the cows. "I didn't know you could do magic, James," Percy marveled. A sudden moo informed them the cows hadn't disappeared, but merely relocated, right into the cattle van. "Well, magic or not, that was some trick," chuckled the farmer. "You've saved my herd." "And a nasty scene," the station master gravely remarked. "You're safe to bring your train into the station now." "I'd love to, sir," James panted, "but only I can't move." "It's your own fault," his driver chimed in. "With all that smoke and steam you made on the climb up, it's little wonder you ended up priming." "Not only that, you've burst your cylinder caps, old boy," added the fireman. "You're stuck." "Not for long. I'll help." Thomas scurried from his siding, ready to pull James and the coaches to the platform. "Thank you," stammered James, disarmed. "Thank you," chuckled Thomas. "My branch was nearly a pasture." He sighed and looked at his buffers. "You did keep your passengers safe, too. I'm sorry for being cross, and for the bootlace remark." "And I'm sorry for belittling you," James replied. "You know, if I must come down a branch line, I'd rather it be this one. I quite like its inhabitants. You earned it, with or without me." There was silence. "Now, don't ever mention bootlaces, or I'll never come round again." Both engines burst into hearty laughter. "It's good to see you, James," Thomas smiled, as the laughter died down. "You see me at the junction all the time." "Well, only in passing. I have to rush off and make up time when you lot delay me." As the two engines laughed and teased each other, the enthusiasts took their picture. You could say they were merely photographing engines number 1 and 5 at work. However, I like to think they were immortalizing a story of how a small action resolved a big quarrel.
Lots of people travel to the big station at the end of the line. Engines from the other railways sometimes pull their trains. These engines stay the night and go home next day. Gordon was talking one day to one of these. "When I was young and green," he said, "I remember going to London. Do you know the place? The station's called King's Cross." "King's Cross?" snorted the engine. "London's Euston. Everybody knows that." "Rubbish," said Duck. "London's Paddington." "I know. I worked there." They argued till they went to sleep. They argued when they woke up. They were still arguing when the other engine went away. "Stupid thing," said Gordon crossly. "I've no patience." "Stupid yourself. said Duck. London's Paddington. Paddington, do you hear? Stop arguing, James broke in. You make me tired. You're both agreed about something anyway. What's that? London's not Euston, laughed James. Now shut up. Gordon rolled away, still grumbling. I'm sure it's King's Cross. I'll go and prove it. But that was easier said than done. London lay beyond the big station, at the other end of the line. Gordon had to stop there. Another engine then took his train. If I didn't stop, he thought, I could go to London. One day he ran right through the station. Another time he tried to start before the fireman could uncouple the coaches. He tried all sorts of tricks, but it was no good. His driver checked him every time. Oh dear, he thought sadly, I'll never get there. One day he pulled the express to the station as usual. His fireman uncoupled the coaches and he ran onto his siding to wait till it was time to go home. The coaches waited and waited at the platform, but their engine didn't come. A porter ran across and spoke to Gordon's driver. The inspector's on the platform. He wants to see you. The driver came back in a few minutes looking excited. Hello, said the fireman. What's happened? The engine for the express turned over when it was coming out the yard. Nothing else can come in or out. They want us to take the train to London. I said we would if the Fat Controller agreed. They telephoned and he said we could do it. How's that? Fine, said the fireman. We'll show them what the Fat Controller's engines can do. Come on, said Gordon, let's go. He rolled quickly over the crossings and backed onto the train. It was only a few minutes before the guard blew his whistle, but Gordon thought it was ages. Come on! He puffed to the coaches. We're going to town, sang the coaches. Slowly at first, then faster and faster. Gordon found that London was a long way away. Never mind, he said. I like a good long run to stretch my wheels. But all the same, he was glad when London came in sight. The Fat Controller came into his office next morning. He looked at the letters on his desk. One had a London postmark. The station master knocked and came in. Excuse me, sir. Have you seen the news? Not yet. Why? Oh, just look at this, sir. The Fat Controller took the newspaper. Famous engine at London Station. Police called to control crowds. The Fat Controller read on, absorbed. Gordon returned next day. The Fat Controller spoke to his driver and fireman. I see you had a good welcome in London. We certainly did, sir. We signed autographs till our arms ached. And Gordon had his photograph taken from so many directions at once that he didn't know which way to look. Good, smiled the Fat Controller. I expect he enjoyed himself. Didn't you, Gordon? No, sir, I didn't. Why ever not? London's all wrong, answered Gordon sadly. They've changed it. It isn't King's Cross anymore. It's St. Pancras.